the stuff, hold close, stay quiet. Oh, yeah, yeah. We find a home under the stars.
Welcome to another installment of The Goddess Keys, where we unleash and unlock the tools and the jewels to support us with returning back to our inherent knowing that we are God, Goddess in form. And I'm going to share with you a foundational tool to support you on this path, which is soul contracts. First of all, the awareness of soul contracts, learning a little bit more about how they operate. I'm going to share some different manifestations of soul contracts, from the more mundane manifestations of them into how they intricately get woven into the etheric planes and the collective unconscious. Okay. So with that being said, what is a soul contract? So whenever I speak with folks about soul contracts, I like to give a really mundane example of anytime you go to the store, right? If you're buying a pack of gum, if you are buying a new outfit, if you're purchasing a meal, usually there will be some kind of paperwork attached to the exchange, no matter how small the purchase is. There's some kind of receipt. And even if you decide to go green, there's still record somewhere of the purchase, right? There is some kind of accounting that takes place, whether it is with you looking at your bank statement or whether there's a tally that is done at the place that you purchased this item from, right? In order for balance and equilibrium to occur within the current financial system that we have, there is record of this purchase, of this interaction, okay? So as within, so without. If you need some kind of a receipt or documentation, even for, say, a pack of gum that you purchase, just think about that in the spiritual realm, right? So any person that you encounter, it's not just by coincidence, it's not by accident. There is a soul contract that's running that will draw that person into your reality. And one thing I've learned about soul contracts is they're run through karma a lot of times. So I like to see karma as a supercomputer, okay? And this supercomputer, or the simulation that a lot of times we wake up to when we are exiting the false matrix, is run by karma, okay? And a lot of times, as we know, this karma is not always genuine, right? So in the last segment I talked about this dynamic around karma dumping and how there are ways in which karma can be manipulated. But we're not talking about that as much today. We're talking about the soul contracts. Now, sometimes you might have a soul contract running in your field to take on the karma of others. Okay. You might have a soul contract running in your field to be the sacrifice. So as much as you want to change this dynamic in the third dimension, if the soul contract is running for you to be the sacrifice, then that is what you will be until you get to the root of that spiritual paperwork and you transform and transcend it. Okay, that is why we deal with soul contracts. Okay. And it's not something that's as simple as I revoke all soul contracts to keep me from my liberation, or to keep me from financial freedom, or to keep me from my dream partner. That's a start. I'm not going to say that doesn't help you at all. Okay. But because of the intricate supercomputer of the false matrix that we have been plugged into and that our ancestries have been plugged into, it's usually a little bit more nuanced than that. Okay. So the way I have described it to folks before is, envision that you are in this false matrix and you're connected through some very intense web work. Okay. And If you think about a spider's web and, any insect that a spider ensnares in its web, it's done by very intricate web work. Okay. It's not like you just are able to detach just by breaking off one thread or one string. Usually it's going to take a lot more time than that. But if you consider each soul contract that's running in your field to be one thread from the thread of the false web work, of the false matrix, as you revoke each soul contract, you're able to move a little bit freer until finally you're not in the web at all. Okay. And that's when you're able to embody creator consciousness and weave your own web. Okay. So it is a pretty tedious process. I like to consider it as like you going to spiritual court, just like if you were to prepare for a court case in the 3D, you would need to study a lot of paperwork, complete a lot of paperwork, learn the case really well, learn all sides really well. And you would want to have a great deal of preparation, and you would want to be thorough. Okay. So that is kind of the mindset. You kind of want to think about this from a place of spiritual law. Okay. And preparing your court case for liberation, essentially. Okay. And sometimes that means also sending back any falsified agreements. A lot of times there are false soul contracts running in your field that are completely lawless, that have no basis upon any kind of karma that you need to kick out of your field. And so you also need to identify when false agreements are running. I know a lot of folks are probably wondering, well, how would I do that? So that's something that I do work with folks. I'm doing it mainly right now one-on-one through the coaching journeys that I'm offering, currently offering 6-week, 3-month, and 9-month coaching journeys. So if this is something that you are interested in pursuing, then definitely reach out to me. But I do work with folks through a divination system called the Genetic Path Cutter system. And in that divination system, you can also identify falsified agreements that are running within your Akashic records that you might need to clear. That's one thing. And there might be a lot of them. It's not just one falsified agreement. It could be very many. Another thing that happens in terms of manipulation of soul contracts are duplicated agreements. Okay, so you might set the intention to clear a soul contract and there's a duplicated copy somewhere. So supposedly that means there's still license for this soul contract to run in your field. And this goes back to this concept of extreme lawlessness to extreme law. So the false matrix has been run upon extreme lawlessness. And so we reverse the polarity and we move into extreme law. This is why I'm utilizing that analogy of you creating a court case for yourself. Okay. I want you to think about if you were, let's say that you needed to go to court against a big oil company that had all the resources, right? That had all of the best, highly trained lawyers. They weren't right with what they did to you. Maybe you're going to court against them because maybe they did something to your health or whatever. And, spiritually, they are in the wrong, but materially, it seems like they have all the resources on their side. It's that kind of mentality. And it doesn't mean that you won't win. It's just that there's a certain level of preparation that you would need to have to prepare for that kind of court case. So that is the mindset you need to be in when it relates to soul contracts. Because a lot of the folks who identify as star seeds or light workers at this time are here to fulfill some really big shifts with bringing our planet into new earth consciousness. Okay. And the controllers of the false matrix knows this. So they've created really hard scripts for you a lot of karmic scripts for you to stay within so that you don't fulfill that purpose and mission. Okay. And there's going to be a lot of weird loopholes and legalese that you'll need to transmute on your path to embracing your true destiny. All right. But there's a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy that you'll need to get through. Okay. And this is why it's really imperative that you learn about your Akashic records so that you're able to see, well, what is this red tape? What is this legalese? And it takes time. Okay. So it's not just about, I used to a long time ago offer soul contract revocation sessions to people, like, a one-off session with them. But I stopped doing that for the same reason why I stopped offering the etheric implant removal one-off sessions with people, because I didn't feel like that was super helpful. It's more important at this particular time in our evolution to teach people the tools to do this on their own, because it's not just a one and done. And this is something that takes time to do. Okay, so just like I've mentioned in previous content that I've done around etheric implants, for folks who are seeking to remove etheric implants, I get a lot of people who come to me and they ask me questions about that, and they're experiencing some really gnarly things in the non-physical as it relates to etheric implants. But I tell people to take the long road, which is what's the karmic cause for it. Whether or not it's actually genuine. Sometimes it is a genuine karmic cause. Other times it is caused by karma dumping or false karma. But to start with the karma first before just removing the etheric implant, because what you'll find is the etheric implant will always come back. Okay. So it's the same kind of concept with the soul contract. Okay. So what's the karmic cause behind the soul contract? And we can get to that in one session, kind of, but I have found that it's more beneficial to folks right now to provide resources for folks to do this on their own. So also, I do offer support on my Patreon community at this time. So a lot of times you do need to go into your Akashic records to see the certain soul contracts that are running. There are very specific soul contracts that you'll need to revoke for very different things, because let's think about this on the mundane realm. You may have taken soul contracts to be in poverty, okay, to always be in a state of lack. All right, so you would want to start revoking soul contracts related to lack, related to financial poverty. But there's a deeper karmic cause for it. You would also need to see where in your ancestral legacy did your ancestors give away their power, give away their access to abundance. We all came here with some version of creator consciousness, and that was stripped away from us through time. All right. And through many falls in human consciousness. So we would also want to get to the seed cause of where this disempowerment started. And we would want to work on alchemizing that as well, because we might revoke the soul contract to be in lack on the financial plane, but we'll find that we have to keep revoking it and keep revoking it and keep revoking it. And a lot of times the reason why is because in the etheric, you are consenting to other forms of poverty. So financial poverty is what might show up on the most mundane level, right? You might feel like you're always losing. Maybe you just feel like it's really difficult for you to keep material possessions sometimes, right? You might even have something where things are just constantly getting stolen from you in the physical realm. Well, as within, so without. What are the soul contracts that are running in the etheric? You might be getting your grid work stolen from you a lot or taken from you a lot in the unconscious. What do I mean when I say grid work? You'll see a lot of the affirmations that I'm putting out might say something related to grid work. So I want to make sure people fully understand what I'm discussing when I say grid work. Okay, so I want you to think about a map, right? You'll notice that if you look at a lot of maps, there are different grids or lines that are on the map. It's kind of like, it'll provide you with the structural framework of different coordinates as it relates to the land on the map. And if we think about the Earth's grid work and the Earth's ley lines, there's very specific information that is embedded into the Earth's grid work. Okay, sometimes there's karma there. Sometimes there are Stargate access points there. And, there's a reservoir of information in the grid system. Same would be for our bodies as well. Okay. So you might have soul contracts to give away certain parts of your body's grid work. And this might manifest years and years and years down the line into other forms of loss or disease or misfortune. By the way, all of this is for entertainment purposes only. I am not a doctor or a medical professional. Okay. So just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. So this revoking of soul contracts, I hope y'all are still with me because I know I'm going deep with this. And this is really just scratching the surface of this. It is a labyrinth. Okay. And so this is why, that spider web analogy is really helpful to folks at this time because, it might take you years to revoke the soul contracts that you need to revoke. Okay. But you're able to move freer and manifest easier and to create the life that you want at more rapid speed if you are constantly revoking soul contracts, okay? And so you want to just think about the areas of your life that you're seeking to shift. So I want you to focus on one area of your life right now that must shift for you to fully embody your calling. Start there. Okay. And then you would want to look at your birth chart to see how the lore of your life is playing out as it relates to that thing that you want to change. This is why it is important to kind of learn about the traditional astrology systems, because a lot of times that is what your soul contracts are based upon in the false matrix. Okay. The astrology system, like if you think about Western astrology, it was here to keep us very boxed in and to run a very certain script, to have a very specific storyline. If you are here to self-realize and activate your DNA, you're going completely off script. But you also want to know what has been scripted for you, and then you can start transmuting those soul contracts, okay? Now, if you are interested in learning more about your astrology chart and reimagining your astrology from this way, I'm not a traditional astrologer. I'm not here to keep you inside the box of the false matrix. That's not what I was designed to do or support people with at this time. However, what I can do is to support you with interpreting your astrology chart to see the soul contracts that might need to be alchemized for you to embody the next phase of your evolution. And I do offer readings related to that. So I offer an ascension reading right now, an ancestral karma reading right now, as well as a goddess activation reading, and a false twin flame reading right now. So, if you're seeking to embody more creator consciousness, you would want to get with the goddess activation reading, and we could kind of look at first of all, where your spiritual gifts reside and what are some of the vows, oaths, and agreements that you may have taken to be out of that power. If you're in a really gnarly false twin flame relationship where you feel as though your essence and your energy is being given to this former or current romantic partner, and you know that you need to be liberated from this experience in order to thrive, then that might be the reading that you might want to book. And then we would look at your birth charts. You'd have to go into both of your birth charts to see the different soul contracts that are running. Same thing for ancestral karma. There may be vows, oaths, and agreements that you took on ancestrally to remain in a particular box that might need to be transmuted. And then lastly, the ascension reading is really supportive if you're trying to reclaim different parts of your body's grid work or different chakras, or different access to different access to your spiritual gifts that may have been bartered in the unconscious by false gods and that sort of thing. And that would be something that we could look at. But, ideally, you're probably going to have to go through all of those forms of alchemy, but it starts with where you see the most dire need for something to shift in your reality. And then you take it from there. And then you get stronger, and then you get more self-actualized, okay? And then you create a synergistic flow with revoking soul contracts. That's why I go so hard with the subliminals, y'all. That's why I go so hard with these affirmations, because this is how we get free. This is how we get free. We first need to look at what we consented to. And if we were to look at this in the etheric realm and the spiritual realm, it would be reams and reams and reams and reams of paper work of things that we consented to that are old scripts. Okay. And we need to review all of that. Lots of reading. Okay. And this is why I'm really big on the whole time liberation stuff, y'all. If you're really serious about rescripting your life, you need to find ways to get off of the toxic hamster wheel of grind culture, out of that 9-to-5 matrix, because you need all of that energy to free yourself, right? And that might be some other soul contracts. You also may need to revoke soul contracts to constantly be indebted or enslaved to the 9-to-5 workforce. I know this because this is something I've had to literally write myself out of, speak myself out of. If you were to have looked at my soul contracts in my old script, I was supposed to be an absolute workaholic till the day I died, right? And constantly be in the work pyramid and on the bottom of it. Okay, so I'm not that way anymore. I speak about this stuff from my experience and from being able to liberate myself and live free and live my truth. And this is what I'm here to support others with doing. It starts with revoking soul contracts. So this is where I'm going to end today as it relates to this topic. There is so much more I can say about this. Like I said, y'all, it's spiritual court. Okay, it's spiritual court, but I would say you want to start with the soul contracts. Like, even if you're like dealing with etheric implants or extra dimensional interferences. I know a lot of y'all come to me too with like weird stuff going on as it relates to like interdimensional beings messing with you or entities messing with you, all that stuff. A lot of that has to do with different soul contracts, different things that your ancestry consented to. Sometimes these beings have license to be in your fields, and you got to like revoke that stuff in order to get them out. And sometimes it gets a little messy. All right. Sometimes they use a lot of extreme lawlessness to try to stay in your field. Okay. So if you're seeking support with this, you can check out the Patreon, or you can also consider booking a reading or taking a deep dive as it relates to coaching. I have a lot of resources out there to support the collective right now. There's not a lot of folks going into it in such a deep level. And I do think more information is going to come out in the future related to this. And I'm really happy to be able to support folks on this path at this time so that you can do what you're here to do, what you were designed to do, being incarnated on this planet at this time. All right. Sending y'all lots of love until we meet again. Bye, y'all.